Recording now.
Okay. This is our social justice project on how social media's effect on teenagers. Okay, so our main question is, does social media have a more negative or more positive impact on teens' mental and physical health?
So cool picture. So my answer to 4 is, here's some cool pictures you can see on Instagram. So why did I put these pictures on here? Because I use Instagram pretty much every day, and these pictures that I see online, they bring me joy almost every day. So if Instagram didn't exist, I wouldn't be allowed to see these pictures. And I think by these pictures making me a little bit healthier, this then makes me a little bit, or make these pictures make me a little bit happier, which then makes me a little bit healthier in the long term. So social media is having a positive effect on my mental health when I see these pictures. You can see cool landscapes, you can see cute puppies, and you can see really yummy looking food. Social media has it all.
Okay, this is my anecdote against. So this is a picture of a 14-year-old girl named Molly Russell who committed suicide after some of the things she was exposed to on social media. So after her father did some digging around, after her death, he found out that her Instagram account was full of tons of accounts that had really horrifying photos of subjects relating to self-harm and even death. So the main issue with social media apps like Instagram and Snapchat is that they have tons of public accounts that are really easily accessible at the click of a button, and you may not even know what you're getting yourself into. So other teenagers on social media can find themselves, or they can find themselves getting the wrong message, and they may even think that things like self-harm and suicide are the answer when they aren't feeling as happy. And yeah, so the constant exposure of teenagers to these hard topics can even lead to deaths, not just from Molly Russell, but from many other teenagers.
So the overview of the controversy. So since 2011, the number of teen depression and teen suicide has skyrocketed. So why does it matter since it's been 2011? Well, that's because 2011 is when social media became as stable in American households. So social media correlates to a spike in negative behaviors, and a lot of scientists think that this is because social media has a really negative effect on teenagers' mental health. So, what is a social network? The USCCB, which stands for United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. I'm going to be using the acronym a lot. They state that a social network is a site that is entirely driven by the contents of its members, and individuals are allowed flexibility in privacy settings and posting text, photos, videos, links, and other information. And in a level of interaction with other members is required. So some examples of social media sites that you might use in your everyday life are Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, etc.
Okay, so my personal stance on this topic is that the emergence of social media, especially in the lives of teenagers, has had a very negative impact on many aspects of their lives. So one of the most important things that social media users need to recognize is that there's always more behind the curtain of what people post on social media. Most things that people post are always the best aspect of their lives, which leads people to believe in a lifestyle or a body or a relationship that isn't really real. Also, a lot of the time, both teenagers and adult users forget that social media is only virtual. So it's nowhere near the same as real life human contact and communication. And many people think that texting and phone calls and social media use can replace this, which it can't. And then in terms of sleep schedules, a health reporter by the name of Rachel Clun wrote an article called High Use of Social Media Tied to Teens' Poor Sleep Schedules. And in this, she discussed many studies that were done in regards to the link between social media use among teenagers and the amount of sleep that they're getting. So in one experiment led by a researcher in Scotland named Holly Scott, it was found that 1 in 3 teenagers who spent less than 1 hour on those apps tended to have the best sleep, and low users even get the sleep they need to function well the next day. So this is a significant issue because many teenagers don't fully understand that if they aren't getting enough sleep, it can result in higher susceptibility to mental illnesses like depression and anxiety.
Okay, so my objections are, okay, so control the controllables. So extreme ownership is a philosophy developed by Jocko Willink. So the idea is that you take control of what you can control and let others control what they can control. So with social media, a big issue are a lot of the issues are based off of things that the users could maybe control themselves, and if they had the skills to control these things themselves, social media would not be an issue for them. So this can be applied to cyberbullying. So how is it applied to cyberbullying? On pretty much all social media sites, one has the feature and the ability to block someone else. So this can solve the problems of cyberbullying, which is a huge negative of social media. So, and another thing is time management. So maybe the users of social media really need to work a little bit on time management. And if they were able to manage their time better, then social media would not have a negative effect on their sleep schedules. And then this wouldn't have a negative effect on their overall mental and physical health. So what I'm trying to say is it's not social media's fault, it's the own user's fault. And we can combat this by taking control of our lives. Okay.
So for my rebuttal, I'm going to start off by talking about the issue of cyberbullying once again. So in a survey conducted by a researcher named Abby Olheiser that was put in the Washington Post called 45% of teens are online almost constantly and they don't know if it's good for them. So this discovered that more teens are worried about social media's role in bullying and hurting relationships. So I understand that it is simple to just block anyone from your account who may be bullying you, but blocking someone doesn't solve the issue completely. And you may be able to block them physically by a click of a button, but not everybody can block them out mentally. And then for the issue of sleep, teenagers lose sleep every night because of social media. And while someone might say that a way to solve this is by getting parents involved and just get them to take away their child's phone or limit their screen time, parents aren't always completely invested in their kid's life, and they may not even know the lack of sleep that their child is getting. And parents probably already expect a sense of responsibility from their teenager enough to put their phone down and go to sleep. So I think at this point, it's just important that teenagers get educated on the fact or on what lack of sleep can have on their bodies. And then lastly, the aspect of peer pressure is something that is very widespread among social media. So teenagers need to start being educated on more mature subjects like drinking and drugs because social media can sometimes even glorify them. So it's important that teenagers don't feel compelled to try everything that they see on social media.
Okay, so my personal stance is I think that social media is overall a good thing and it has a minimal effect on teenagers' mental and physical health. So I believe this because there's no conclusive evidence that social media affects mental health. So who says that? That was stated by Pew Research in a study they did on social media. And Pew Research is a very trusted research site, or not research site, it's a research organization. So I believe that social media isn't actually at fault for things that happen on it, And social media does a lot more good than it does bad. The amount of people that have been positively affected by social media greatly outweighs the amount of people that has been negatively affected. So, another thing is saying social media, like bullies and cyberbullies are the reason that social media is bad, is like saying the driver is the is at fault, or it's like saying the car is at fault for getting in a car accident. It's the driver. So another thing I would like to say is social media, this is stated by the USCCB. They state that social media can support communities in a myriad of ways. They can connect people with similar interests, sharing information about person to person events, provide ways for people to engage in dialogue. So, and social media is also a safe space for people with minority identities. Facebook has an ad campaign called "There's a Facebook group for that." So people that usually would be scared to show who they really are can express themselves on social media, which has a positive effect on teenagers' health.
Okay, so here are my objections to that. So a study on the overall effects of social media um, conducted by Russell Viner of the UCL Grant Ormond Street Institute of Child Health concluded that social media itself doesn't cause harm, but that frequent use may disrupt activities that have a positive impact on mental health. So pertaining to the issue of cyberbullying once again, of course, social media didn't create cyberbullying and it still would have existed otherwise, but it doesn't justify the fact that cyberbullying is still continuing to happen because of social media. And if social media was truly a positive platform, then why are so many users being harmed by it? I just believe that its negative effects are so drastic that they easily outweigh the positives. And then a San Diego State University psychology professor named Jean Twang wrote in The Atlantic that upon the emergence and popularity of social media, rates of teen depression and suicide have skyrocketed since 2011. So for me, it's just hard to believe that social media really is a safe space when so many teenagers are constantly comparing themselves to the facades that social media influencers are creating or are bullied by people who they may not even know the name of.
Okay, so my rebuttal to that is the farthest image to the right is a picture of Daron Ravi. He's the man who pushed Tyler Clementi to his breaking point and made him want to commit suicide. He is the one that should be held responsible for Tyler Clementi's suicide, not social media. I say this because he's the one that mercilessly bullied Tyler just because he was a gay man. So, another thing I would like to say is the number of people who drowned by falling into a pool correlates with films that Nicolas Cage appeared in. So what does this mean? Correlation does not imply causation. So just because social media correlates correlates with um, correlates with people uh, being they're having their mental health negatively affected, this doesn't mean that social media is actually at fault. What I'm trying to say is that social media is used as a scapegoat for when bad things happen. A lot of people like to say that social media causes teenagers to lose a lot of sleep. Well, there's also a lot of other things that cause teenagers to lose sleep, like schoolwork and family issues. It's not just social media's fault. And social media shouldn't be used as the scapegoat because it's the newest of all these issues. Okay, so some future steps that we can take is create a dialogue between people that may not have interacted before and may not have had and if we didn't have social media in the first place, we need to increase education and so on. So, but until then, Pope Francis states that to dialogue means that the other has something worthwhile to say and to renounce our own ideas and traditions. But the claim that they alone are valid or and absolute. Engaging in dialogue does not mean renouncing our own ideas and traditions, but the claim that they alone are valid or absolute. Pope Francis is saying that we should use social media to create dialogue between people that may not have interacted before if we didn't have social media in the first place. Another thing I want to say is the NORC, which is the National Opinion Research Committee, they state that social media should start to be incorporated into public policies and legislation, which means that we should start to have laws which could in turn prevent some of the bad things from happening on social media that are currently happening.
Okay, so first of all, I want to focus in on the picture on the slide. So this picture shows the total population, the amount of cell phone users, the number of internet users, and the number of active social media users. So I just want to take a moment to notice that all of these numbers are in the billions, and they will most likely continue to rise as time goes on. So social media is very unpredictable already. So it's really hard to tell how much of it will change, if any of it actually does. Um, but Instagram has actually started to implement a new feature that will take away the ability to see how many likes a person gets on their post, um, which helps the issue of teens' lowered self-esteem. So for many teenagers, a lot of their stress comes from the amount of likes that they may get on their post compared to what someone else will get. Um, and so this is one aspect that I think really needs to change, because people shouldn't, dictate how they see themselves based on the number of likes they get on a post. The last aspect of the future that I want to talk about is how the emergence and existence of social media will affect the future of religion. So, as stated from the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, there are now more active Facebook accounts than there are Catholics worldwide. So this just goes to show how much social media has taken over many just different aspects of the world. And so along with saving the future of teenagers, it's important that we try to save the future of religion as well.
Thank you. These are our works cited. You can pause if you would like to view them. They are in order of appearance.